On their wanderings, the Pandavas came to a quiet hermitage on the banks of the Ganga, the ashram of the sage Raibhya. The air was full of running water and birdsong, and their guide, Lomasa, as he always did, began to unfold for them the old holiness of the place. In the epic, no ground is merely ground. Every ghat has its story. This is the ghat, said Lomsa, where Bharat, son of Dashratha, once bathed. These very waters cleansed Indra himself of the sin of slaying Vritra unfairly. Layer upon layer of sanctity lay on the spot, and the sage read it to them like a man reading names carved into old stone. Here, Sanatkumara became one with God, Lomsa went on, and here, Aditi, mother of the gods, offered oblations on this mountain and prayed for a son. Ascend this holy mountain, Yudhishthir, and the misfortunes that have clouded your life will lift. It was more than tourism. It was medicine offered to a grieving king. Bathe in these running waters, said Lomsa, his voice growing solemn, and let anger and passion be washed from you, your sorrows melting like morning mist. Then he began another, sharper tale, for this beautiful place had also seen a warning. Here, he said, Yavakrida, a sage's son, met his destruction. And the Pandavas leaned in to hear how. There were two great brahmanas here once, dear friends. Lomsa began, Bharadwaja and Raibhya. But they were great in different ways. Raibhya and his two sons, Parvasu and Arvavasu, mastered the Vedas and became famous scholars, honored wherever learning was prized. Bharadwaja, by contrast, gave himself wholly to the worship of God and cared nothing for scholarly fame. And Bharadwaja had a son, Yavakrida, who watched the world with a jealous eye. He saw that the Brahmins flocked to honor the learned Raibhya and his scholarsons, while his own devout father went unregarded, and it galled him. The respect his father did not seek, the son burned to seize. Envy once again, lighting the fuse of a whole story. So Yavakrida made a proud decision. He would not win learning the slow way. By sitting at a teacher's feet for years, he would seize it whole, directly, by the sheer force of penance. He went deep into the forest and gave his body to terrible austerities, fasting, and mortifying his flesh until he was gaunt. Determined to wring divine knowledge out of heaven itself, his austerities grew so severe that they troubled the gods. And at last, his self-torture stirred the compassion of Indra himself. The king of the gods appeared before the wasted young ascetic in a blaze of light and asked the question that goes to the root of the whole tale. Why do you torment your body like this? Yavakrida answered without humility. I wish to be more learned in the Vedas than anyone has ever been. He said, the greatest scholar in the world. Learning them from a teacher takes long years and great hardship. I am doing penance to gain that knowledge directly, all at once. Bless me. He wanted the summit without the climb, and he wanted it now. Indra smiled and gave him the truth. Brahman, you are on the wrong path, he said. Go home, find a proper teacher, and learn the Vedas from him. Austerity is not the road to knowledge. The road is study, and study alone. And with those words, the king of the gods vanished, leaving the lesson hanging in the forest air. But Yavakrida would not have it. Instead of heeding the god, Yavakrida redoubled his penance, fiercer, grimmer, more punishing than before, to the growing horror of the gods. He would compel the boon he had been refused. There is a kind of piety that is really only pride in disguise, and Yavakrida had it in full. He turned even a god's warning into fresh fuel. Indra came a second time and warned him again, more sternly. You have taken the wrong path to knowledge. It can be won only by study. Your own father learned the Vedas by patient study. So can you. Stop this vain mortification of the body and go and learn. It was the same true counsel, given twice. And twice, it fell on deaf ears. And now Yavakrida turned defiance into threat. If my prayer is not granted, he announced, I will cut off my own limbs one by one and offer them into the sacred fire. It was spiritual blackmail aimed at heaven. Give me what I want, or watch me destroy myself. He would never give up. And he went back to his terrible penance. The days ground on, and Yavakrida's body wasted while his will would not bend, and the forest around him seemed to hold its breath. Heaven had reasoned with him twice and been refused twice. So Indra, who had tried the direct word, decided to try something older and wiser. Not an argument, but a picture. He would show the fool his folly rather than tell it. One morning, when Yavakrida went down to bathe in the Ganga, he found a gaunt old Brahman on the bank, patiently scooping up handful after handful of sand and casting it into the rushing river. The old man worked steadily, absorbed, as though at some great and serious task. Yavakrida watched, puzzled, then called out to ask what he was doing. I am building a dam across this river, the old man said, without looking up, handful by handful of sand, until it is done. And then people will cross with ease, where now the crossing is so hard. Useful work, is it not? He said it with perfect seriousness, as though a river could be dammed with sand thrown one fistful at a time. Yavakrida burst out laughing. What a fool you must be, old man, to think you can dam this mighty river with silly handfuls of sand. Get up and find some sensible work. He was delighted by the stranger's stupidity. The young ascetic who could not see his own reflection was quick to mock it in another. And the old man looked up and set the hook. Is my project? The old man asked quietly, really more foolish than yours. To master the Vedas not by study, but by austerities? The words went through Yavakrida like cold water. In an instant, he understood. The sandam was a mirror, and the old Brahman was no old Brahman at all. This was Indra, come a third time, to teach by showing what could not be taught by telling. And this time it worked. Humbled at last, Yavakrida bowed low before the god he had defied, and all his arrogance gone, begged earnestly for the gift of learning as a personal boon, no longer demanding it as his due, but asking it as a grace. Sometimes a man must be shown his own image in a fool before he can bend, and Indra, seeing the change, was gracious. Very well, he said, I grant the boon you seek. Go and study the Vedas, and you will become learned. So Yavakrida won at last, by humility, what pride and self-torture had never wrung from heaven. But mark this well. A boon won is not the same as wisdom earned, and Yavakrida had gained the learning without gaining the sense to use it. That gap would soon destroy him. But that is the next part of the tale.